What's going on, guys? Corey here from Tackle Crafters and Gulfstream Lures in the warehouse today, and we're talking jig heads. We make several different types of jig heads for several different types of applications. I want to talk to you guys about them today because winter time is here, and Central Florida, South Florida, winter means flats fishing, getting up under the mangroves, fishing around docks, bridges, and pylons for a lot of those inshore species, sheep's head, and lots of snapper around still in the winter here for sure. We just went yellowtailing this past weekend. It's the beginning of November, and the yellowtail snapper bite is on fire right now as we transition into some cooler weather. So we're gonna start from right to left, and we're gonna talk about some of these jig heads. The first one I wanna talk to you guys about is our shrimp tease head. This is one of my personal favorites when I'm inshore fishing for trout, redfish, snook, and even tarpon. We got a big stout 2X black nickel hook on here. We make this jig in two different sizes. This is 1/8 and 1/4 ounce. So this is really for skinny water. You're pitching up underneath mangroves, you're on the flats looking for bonefish or permit, fishing snook around docks. This is where this jig really excels. My favorite way to fish it is with artificial on the back. Now here at Gulfstream Lures, we don't do soft plastics. That's not something we've ever gotten into, though we've thought about it and are thinking about it. There's a lot of great soft plastic manufacturers on the market. Here, for example, I have a shrimp from a local company that we put on the 1/4 ounce brown. And this is a clear with a gold glitter shrimp. This is a nice, very firm type of plastic, so a very durable bait. And a lot of times guys are gonna rig this with like a lead ball style jig head. But I really prefer putting our shrimp tease on this. Fantastic for bonefish and permit, and this is gonna catch you everything. Snook, trout, redfish. I have thrown this head around grass flats for snook and trout very successfully. How it's gonna differ from maybe more of your traditional style head is that shape, and also the bend of the eye of the hook. So we've got a 45-degree bend here, but this eye is not bent this way like you do on our Troll Rite head, where it's in line with the jig. It's bent so that it's gonna come down and kind of land like this and bounce up. So when you're pulling that head, it's gonna be slightly different than some of these other style jig heads. The fall is gonna be slower because you have this wide arrow type of shape to it. So something that's more of a ball style or your traditional style jig head like a Troll Rite, this is gonna fall slower than that. We also make this jig head with bucktail on a jig called the flats jig. And the slow fall rate on that jig is extremely impressive, and it's very realistic if we're trying to mimic a shrimp in the water. You know, shrimp don't sink, don't fall down quickly. They're pretty light, right? You have current, you have salt water, which also floats things more than fresh water. This is gonna mimic a lifelike shrimp with this head a little bit better than anything else out there because it's gonna fall a little bit slower. I also like to rig this with like a soft jerk tail. I don't have one here to show you, but similar to like any other soft plastic, you're gonna look for DOA and several other brands make them where they just have the split tail. And rigging that on this is a great way to mimic shrimp as well. Just anything with that shape, that split tail shape. Sure, you can rig this with a paddle tail, but if I'm gonna use a paddle tail, I'm really gonna go for one of these other style jig heads, okay? Moving on to our Troll Rite head. We put a 2X black nickel mustad hook on this head. This is a traditional head with painted eyes, nothing fancy really about it. Has a old school style hook keeper on there. And we make these in several different sizes, going from 1/8, 1/4, 3/8, all the way up to 1/2 ounce here. So depending on the current, the depth, we're giving you a few different options to target fish in different water columns, different depths. The 1/8 ounce, obviously great for really skinny water, then moving up as the water gets deeper and the current gets faster. Okay, here I have a few different soft plastics. This is a DOA cow, one of my favorites to fish this with. It fits the DOA cow beautifully. Play around with colors. Sometimes they're keying in on specific colors. Chartreuse is one of my go-to, especially when I'm trout fishing. So keep that in mind. All right, now moving on here, we have our Pro Skimmer head. On this head, we do it in 3 different sizes. 16th ounce, 8th ounce, and quarter ounce. And I gravitate towards 1/8 and quarter in this bait. But again, if you're fishing super skinny water, 16th is a fantastic option. Now this particular head, I've caught many snook, many big bass, many peacock bass on this head. This has a little bit of a lighter hook because it's really meant to be a freshwater jig head. But as I've said, I've caught snook anywhere from 38 to 39 inches, never a 40, but 38, 39-inch snook on this head. And I've never had a problem with the hook bending out, but granted, I'm fishing lighter tackle. I'm utilizing the drag. It's not lockdown drag. I wouldn't recommend this for tarpon, but it's nice when you're got on a school of like slot size snook because of the wide gap hook. What ends up happening is similar to a circle hook, not identical, but similar. It's going to catch the corner of the fish's mouth a lot of times. So on some of those bigger snook I've caught with this jig, and typically it's with a paddle tail, just like this. What ends up happening is you catch the corner of their mouth. So maybe you're fishing 20 or 30 pound fluorocarbon and you hook up to a fish that would typically fray right through that. Well, this is going to be sitting right in the corner of that fish's mouth. So while it's really meant for freshwater, I utilize it for both. I really like it for peacock bass and largemouth bass. Here we have one of the Z-Man shads rigged on this. Now, on the wide gap hook, rigging certain baits can be a little bit tricky, but you just have to play with it. And similar to the Troll Rite, you just kind of have to find where you're going to exit the point of the hook on your bait, on your soft plastic. Now, what's important with the Pro Skimmer head here to note is that it has these two little wire hook keepers on here, and then it has a hook keeper up at the front. So once you get your soft plastic on, it's not coming off. If you try to pull it off, you potentially could risk tearing it. So you want to make sure you line up your bait beforehand, exactly where you want this to exit. So on this paddle tail, I'm going to mark right here, right where I see it coming out the back. So I'm going to put my finger there, excuse me, and I'm just going to mark a little point here on the back so I know, hey, this is where I want my exit to be. And on this head, it ends up being right at the top of the slot in the back on this particular paddle tail. Now, this is a really popular traditional paddle tail for bass fishing. And as you can see here, I have one rigged, and I have caught many largemouth bass on this exact setup. A pearl paddle tail with a pink chartreuse or white head are kind of my go-tos. This is the quarter ounce here, and this is a really popular style bait to throw here in South Florida. You can roll this on the bottom for big bass. You can throw it up under mangroves and dock pilings for snook, and the trout really love the action on a long tail like this. So again, just a little bit of a different presentation. I really like this hook, especially when I'm fishing for slot size snook or big bass that can fray my line. This is going to keep my line out of their mouth a little bit more often. And again, we have those really nice 3D eyes. A beautiful powder coated head. Just a fantastic jig head for a lot of different applications. Moving on to our last, but not least, our Troll Rite jig head. We do the Troll Rite in a lot of sizes, more sizes than most. So we go from 16th ounce all the way up to 3/4 ounce in this head. And what you're going to find more often than not, this style head is going to be used for baiting. For like snapper and sheep's head and things like that. So you're going to take some frozen shrimp. I like to fish them with live shrimp a lot. You can yellowtail with these with silver sides, strips of bonita. Like I mentioned earlier, we were yellowtailing on Saturday. The current was a little slow and the fish ended up coming right under the boat. The 1/4 ounce Troll Rite was the perfect ticket to get that bait right down to where the yellowtail were sitting because we didn't want it to drift on the surface out the back. With a slower current, the fish were sitting closer to the boat and we're sitting a little bit deeper because that's how the chum was falling. So in that situation, a typical little snapper jig that's 16th ounce or 1/32 ounce isn't going to do the trick. We needed something a little heavier, and that's where this comes in. We put our silver side right through the eyes on the hook and drift it down, and we were hooking up every drop. The other application, like I said, this is really good for sheep's head fishing. You want to tip it with some live shrimp or a dead shrimp. My preferred way of rigging it is I'm just going to put the hook right through the back of the tail, up from the bottom through the top. So it's going to sit with the tail of the shrimp right here upright, and then the body of the shrimp this way. So when you bounce it back, you're pulling that shrimp backwards. Naturally, how it would swim in the water is backwards. So that's why we rig it through the tail like that. Also, it's a natural presentation. If you're just drifting the shrimp through the current, that's a great way to present it because the weight's going to be on the back of the tail, and it conceals that jig a little bit more, because what's going to happen is the fish really focuses on the head of the shrimp. They want to go head first when they're eating shrimp because it runs away backwards. Other ways you can fish this are with the soft plastic, absolutely, but this wouldn't be my first choice when rigging with the soft plastic. But if this is all you have in your tackle box, this will do the trick. I rigged this onto this generic soft plastic that we put the Troll Rite on earlier. There's no hook keeper on here, as you guys can see, and it's meant to not have a hook keeper because when you're fishing frozen bait, live bait, it really doesn't serve a purpose. But what's interesting is the little bit of lead that's on the neck is enough to keep this on here actually really securely. I have fished this for trout and I've had no problems. It's a little bit of a smaller gap hook, so that's something to take note of. But again, if this is the jig head you have in your bag and you need something to work with the soft plastic, it'll get you out of a bind. So that's the 4 different style jig heads we make here at Gulfstream Lures. Check us out at GulfstreamLuresUSA.com. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, reach out, leave a comment in the video. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What are your favorite jig heads to fish this time of year? Do you prefer the jig heads that match up perfectly with a soft plastic, or do you like more of a traditional where maybe it's not perfect, but you know it catches fish and you know it's going to produce for you? So that's our jig head review today. Again, check us out at GulfstreamLuresUSA.com, and hope you guys can get out there and get tight this winter. Thanks, guys.